Right, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Project Management. All right, so you have been reading chapters 8 and 9 on Unit 4 this week. All right, and we are scheduled to have a midterm test tomorrow on the 2nd of August. I'm not sure how aware you are of this, but you are supposed to be writing a midterm test tomorrow. All right, so you guys don't look surprised at all by this. So I take that you are very much aware of your midterm test tomorrow. I'm happy to see that you are not shocked by this. It's something that you are very much aware of. So I'm quite happy. All right. So the midterm test, if you are not aware of it, is on your schedule, and it is a multiple choice test. It counts 20%. It will be available on Funda by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right, so it's going to be 2 hours. You will have 2 hours available to it. You will have, if you do well on this, it counts out of 20% of your whole year mark. So you want to do well for this midterm test. Okay, the midterm test will go from chapters 1 to chapter 8 in your book. Chapter 1 to chapter 8. So write that down. Yeah. So are there any questions concerning the midterm test while I'm here? Any questions? Are you guys happy? Are you happy with that? All right. Perfect. All right. So today I just want to speak about chapter 8, which is project closure. Okay. This chapter is going to be in your midterm test. So please be aware of it, and I'm sure you're working towards it. Okay, so we want to reflect on how important it is to close projects carefully. One of the major things in project management is that we rush through how to do the project, and we do all the activities, and then at the end we mess things up because we didn't close the project properly. So we need to be aware on this phase and take it very seriously. Okay, so understand the activities that comprises the closing phase of a project. Initiate and conduct a handover of the project output to the client. Okay, conduct post-project assessment to determine the successes of the project activities. All right, so it's very important that you are able to go back and we assess what has happened. All right, this is as important as the project itself. Define formal interventions for premature closure of troubled projects and review successes and failures with a view to improve future projects. All right. So the final phase of the project, so this is, you have implemented, done activities, and you are now ready to take this project from your hands as a project manager to the client or to the person who's going to be running this project going forward, or who's going to be running this unit in a business going forward. So it's just as important as the other project phases of initiating, planning, monitoring, implementation. Many organizations and many people do not pay sufficient attention to this phase, whereas others ignore this phase altogether. Okay, so you have to prepare for this phase of the project, that is the project closure, because sometimes you can do a brilliant project and it's done very well, and yet your client cannot use or do what you have done, what you have prepared for them. So especially in the manufacturing sector, excuse me, a project manager can, like which is usually engineering companies, they can prepare a wonderful piece of technology. All right, they design it well, they spec it well, they do it so well, but they bring it to the production team. The production team have no idea how this thing works. They don't have any idea how to operate it. They don't know why it's different. They don't know how to operate it. And they mess up the whole technology. And the project manager always says, oh, we did this wonderful project, but just the client didn't understand it. Why didn't the client understand it? It's because you didn't do the project closure very well. You didn't, your handover was very poor. Are you guys with me? Does this make sense? Am I ranting and raving on my own here? Talking to myself. I love talking to myself, you know that. Okay, natural project closure. And there's unnatural project closure. So these are scenarios that we're looking at. In a natural project closure, the project has to be completed and all the project requirements have all been delivered. So we've done everything that we said we will do. Okay? That's how most project gets closed. So we do everything in the project plan, and we complete everything that we said we will do, and then we hand it over to the client. In an unnatural scenario, the project has not performed to the time, scope, and budget. The project requirements have changed, and some assumptions have proven to be false and are no longer valid. All right? The objective of project closure are to ensure that a project is closed down in a controlled and organized manner. All accountabilities related to it have been released and handed over to the organization, to the client, or another project. Okay, so let's say, for instance, we were designing and building the Cape Town Stadium. All right, the stadium has been completed. We've done everything that we're supposed to do, and now we're handing it over to the municipality, who is the project client. But now the municipality doesn't know what to do with this beast. They have no idea how to look after it. And that's why, even though the Cape Town Stadium is standing at the moment, games are being played on it, but because it's not making money, is it a successful project closure or is it a disaster? What do you think? What do you think about the closure of the Cape Town project? Was it a disaster or was it a success? What do you guys think? was a success. Oh my goodness. Why do you say that? Wow. Wow. You have to justify it. Do you think it was delivered properly? Do you think that the city of Cape Town was ready for the stadium when they received it? Because this is what determines whether the thing is successful or not. Okay, you didn't tell me why you think it was a success. But anyway, these are the activities, these are the two activities that you need to do in the project closure. You need to ensure that all work is completed as per the scope and plan. Notify the client of the project completion and ensure that the delivery is complete. Obtain acceptance. Obtaining acceptance of the product by the client, okay? The client will be requested to indicate, I'm reading from here, the client will be expected to indicate acceptance and satisfaction by signing a formal document stating that the project's final completion as requested have been delivered. Ensure that the documentation is complete, including preparation of the closure project. In this case, the project manager will use a checklist to make sure that all project documents have been completed with final entries and then prepare the project closure document. All right? All right. So, ensuring final billing and the payment of invoices is conducted. That's part of the closure. Redistributing project team members, materials, equipment, and any other resources to appropriate places. It's very important that the people that work in a project know exactly what happens to them on the final day when the project is completed. All right? Closing of contracts using legal counsel if required. So are there documents that needs to be signed by lawyers or prepared by lawyers in order to close the project? Recording and archiving all non-disclosure documents. Okay? Determining what records to keep. All right, so for instance, in a building project, the project manager is the one who will have who will have installed all the electrical equipment, right? Now, the municipality and other authorities need to have a certificate that assures the owner of the building and the municipality that the electricity wiring is working properly, it's not an danger to people who are occupying the building. Because if anything happens to anybody in that building while using an electricity socket, someone needs to take the liability for that. All right. If the project was not handed over properly to the client can easily say, it's not my responsibility that someone died while trying to switch on the lights in this building. It was the project manager. He handed over the building to me like this. If the project manager does not have proper document to prove that it's not him who caused that to happen, the manager was responsible, then, you know, the project manager will be responsible for what happened. All right, so can you see why it's important to hand over a project properly to the client. Okay, ensuring that such documents, so the documents are very, very important. The reason why I made an example was because I want to show you that the documents are as important as handing over whatever needed to be handed over. Okay, so ensuring that such documents are stored in proper places and that the responsibility for document retention is retained to the client. So you need to hand over, the project manager must archive selected project records in a manner that ensure easy future retrieval. Okay, so some project records such as user manuals, training material, product procedure, which are needed by the clients in order to operate the product at the end of the day, belongs to the client. And the ownership must be transferred from the project manager to the client. So, and there are so many things that need to be handed over that it's easy to forget what to hand over and what not to hand over. You know, you can't hold on to certain things. All right. Ascertaining any product support requirement, deciding how much support will be delivered, assigning a responsibility. Once the product of the project has been accepted by the client, the project manager may still be required to provide support. This will be described in warranty and support documentation. And usually these kinds of support is not paid for by the client. It's something that they expect will happen. And so it's very important that there's an understanding of the cut-off time between the responsibility of the project manager and the responsibility of the client. When does that happen? Okay? Overseeing the closing of the project's books. If all obligations regarding payment have been met, the project manager must ensure the final accounting closure of the finances of the project. Okay? So everything has been paid. The accounting from a project manager point of view. Sometimes when the project is ongoing, the project manager is the one who's expected to pay the bills, to pay the electricity, to pay the water, to pay for this and to pay for that. All right. Now, once a thing has been handed over, the project manager needs to make sure that the accounts, the payment for these things have been handed over. So if the municipality, for instance, in terms of water and electricity, is aware that the project manager is responsible for the water before the client comes on, if the project manager does not go back to the municipality and say, by the way, here's a document to show that we've handed this thing over. If that has not been done, then the project manager will be responsible for what happens. Okay, and for the money going forward. So this is very important from an accounting point of view, and making sure that you are not left holding the can for things that you shouldn't be holding the can for. Okay, so what is the role of the project manager? This sounds like a nice question to ask for a midterm test. Pay attention. Oh boy. So, role number one, ensure that the project will deliver what was promised. Okay, that sounds simple enough. During the monitoring and control phase, the project manager will ensure this by actively monitoring and maintaining the functionality and quality of the project deliverables. All right. Number two, actively leading the team through a confusing period of time during project closure. And this is very important. The project manager must now stop what they have been doing. The project manager must be highly visible at this time and ensure that she communicates efficiently and effectively. All right. This requires a project manager to maintain a high profile and assume a position of strong leadership. They need to focus the team's attention on specific work items that are required to be performed. And this can mean a lot of money gets lost if things are not done properly during the time. Because people are very quick to leave their post and move on and do something else if the project manager does not hold them accountable. All right? For instance, if the project manager leaves a pile of bricks lying on the streets on the last day and someone hits their car and loses it, whose responsibility is that? Is it the client or is it the project manager? So all of those things need to be managed. And they look so simple and they look so unassuming, but if they're not managed properly, they can cause a lot of problems. Okay. Preparing for a transition into the operational use of the product. He or she must make sure that the handover to the client goes smoothly. The client's environment must be ready to receive the product, and all training must have been done. Okay, so you cannot, I mean, even if you're giving someone a beautiful machine, if they don't know how to use it, it's pointless because they're going to abuse it and kill it and destroy it. So training must have been done. Okay, securing consensus that the project has met the completion criteria. Okay, so you need to get that in writing. So this refers to validation that by the project manager and project team that deliverables created by the project have been met. So we make sure that the things that we promised to do, that they have been done. Okay? The client must accept and verify, and the project manager needs to verify that the client is satisfied and that the client formally accepts that the product is now theirs. Okay, so if you're doing an IT project, there needs to be a cut-off time where, okay, this was our responsibility, this is now your responsibility. And that line must be drawn in the sand. And the client must understand that actually this is now your thing. Ensuring that the project records are accurate and stored appropriately. So we've spoken about that. Transferring what has been learned to others. Okay, so this is now an internal business thing that the project manager usually does. Giving feedback, why that worked, why that didn't work, what worked and what didn't work. That has nothing to do with the client. Transferring what has been learned to others is something that the project manager does for his own team. Acknowledging the contribution of the project team and the project stakeholders. So again, that can be something that's very easy to ignore, but it needs to be done. Bring the project to efficient administrative closure. So this includes accounting issues, which I've spoken about, invoicing, which I've spoken about, terminating rental or lease agreements, which I've spoken about, storing things like those bricks, which I've spoken about, leftover materials, all of those things. You can't leave things lying around because someone needs to take care of it. And who's going to take care of it? So all of that. Okay. So, but all of these things, and that's why the skill of a project manager, an experienced project manager, knows about all these things, that you need to plan for the closure period. It's as important as all the other parts of the project. And if they're not planned properly, they are going to lead to disaster. Okay. So we need to identify the project completion criteria. We need to list all the activities In the construction industry, we call this snagging. What are the snags? Okay, so the projects need to have a clear start and end date, and that date needs to be known on such and such a day, and the client needs to understand this as well. On such and such a day, the project, you're not going to see me here anymore, kind of thing that needs to be screened. All right. As part of the planning process, a clear end date allows the project team, the stakeholders, and customer to plan properly for the future. Okay. So what are the potential issues that could take place during the project closure? Okay. Unexpected staff turnover. All right. So once a project is completed, most of the work is done and the pace of the work tends to slow down. This often results in the project team members becoming eager to move on to a new project. And I've seen this happen. So a project is coming to an end, people are lying around, people don't know what to do, and the next thing that happens, people don't come to work, or they've been poached and asked to do something else. And the project manager can be left standing there all by themselves to do small menial things that could have been avoided. So we need to, again, be careful how people are managed during this time. Missing documentation, these are big issues. So for instance, a piece of equipment which is part of the building comes in. So for instance, you're building a house or you're building a kitchen for an office. A stove comes, it's a beautiful stove, but the manual for operating the stove goes missing. Who accepted the stove? Who put it in? What happened to the document? And because there's usually rubble and things lying around, if there isn't a proper procedure for holding the documents, they'll go missing. Okay, completion of administrative deliveries, transition management, rumors, technical, these are all challenges that can happen during project closure. Okay, team challenges, client challenges. Okay. So during closure, one of the issues is transition. Transition from building something to using it, or from designing something to manufacturing. This can be a challenge. We've spoken about training. Okay, we've spoken about documentation. We've spoken about staff migration. All of these things require planning. Okay, so the project manager can ensure an easy transition by including client representation. So during the closing phase, you need to have the client being present at that point. Okay, so for instance, if you're a project manager, you want the production manager to be with you during the closure of the project. So who is the production manager? So he needs to see. I mean, for instance, sometimes when we're dealing with technical things, the design team, the manufacturing team, and the production team needs to work together. When they switch the machine on, the guy who designed the machine, the guy who made the machine, the guy who's going to use the machine for production, all of them, and the guy and the operator, all of them need to be there and do it together, because then you would be able to get rid of all those things. Everybody can ask their questions. The designer can see how the operator does the machine. The manager, the production manager, can see how the operator operates the machine, how the machine works. All of those people, because if anything breaks and anything happens at that time, They all need to be there, and problems can come up and they can be solved right there and then. I have seen these things happen. I've seen how a designer, can get confused when the machine is commissioned at the end, because the machine begins to do things that he didn't design. And I've seen manufacturers of machines saying, well, we did this because the spec said this. And the designer says, but I didn't put that in the spec. And the manager said, well, I want it to work like this. And the operator saying, well, according to my experience, this doesn't work. And so the designer can think he's done a great job, but the guy who's going to operate the machine on a daily basis thinks he's done a poor job. And the manager and the production manager or the client just wants the thing to work, and the thing doesn't work. So all of those things create problems, and the project manager needs to document all of these things, put them in a snag list, and allocate people who are going to do things. So as a project manager, you need to sit all of these guys down, and you could end up, and I've seen project closures usually take a long time. Sometimes they can take 6 months. So it's not just a matter of handing over a key and walking away. Sometimes it can take 6 months. You finish the project, finish everything, but you need to go back 6 months later and see if things were done properly. Are you with me? Okay. So premature closure often happens when organizations allow projects to slip away from them, and we've spoken about that. Despite best efforts, all of the stakeholders, projects fail. They can be stopped or declared unrecoverable. Okay. This can be due to anything from supplier insolvency, the company owners deciding that the recovery costs are too high, or a customer canceling an order late in the life of the project. All of these things can result in a premature stoppage or closure of a project. Okay, so project deliverables must be integrated in the ongoing. So the best handover is the one that happens in the operation stages of the product. So the product goes into production, gets tested, and starts working during the handover of the project. And then you can say, okay, this project is now handed over. Okay, so the benefits realization is a process by which the project team quantifies the actual benefits that have been realized after the project has been delivered. To be legitimate, a project must achieve at least one of the following business benefits. Oh, this looks like a nice question as well. This looks like a nice question from chapter 8. Are you listening there? All right. Okay. To be legitimate, a project must achieve at least one of the following: maintain or increase profitable revenue to the business, now or in the future; reduce operating costs; reduce the amount of money tied up within the business; and must support or provide a solution to a necessary or external imposed constraint, for example, legal or regulatory environment. Okay, so those are the benefits. How do we measure them? The financial benefits can be revenue, can be contribution to the business, can be profit enhancements. Non-financial benefits describe the value add to the business that is directly attributed to the project. These benefits could be tangible and measurable, such as operational performance. So we were used to achieving a conversion of 65%. Now we achieve a conversion of 75%. That's a huge improvement. It used to take us 2 hours to make our product. It now takes us 1.5 hours. That's operational performance measurement. Process performance measurements, again, can be, we used to chop this, we used to have to chop 5 of these things before we put them in. Now we have to chop it once and then it goes in. That's process performance measures. Client satisfaction measures, key performance indicators. All of these can be the benefits of the project. Okay, so one of the things a project manager must ensure is that everything, all the work has been planned for future completion and has been completed in a timely and efficient manner. All outstanding work that cannot be completed must be documented. I think I've spoken about this and handed over to the responsible person. So if, for instance, it's very possible, and this happens a lot in projects, and I've seen this happen, and I've done it myself, is that the project gets to an end. However, like you were supposed to have put in a toilet over there, but because the toilet that you wanted was not found, you decided to do another type of a toilet. Those things usually get documented, and the client accepts that I accepted a red toilet instead of a white toilet, and it was my doing. It was not in a project plan to have a red toilet, but we've put in a red toilet, and the client must sign, and we must, all of those things. Anyway, and this is a project evaluations and the type of questions that you could ask. All right, so project closure is the last phase of a project. We've determined that. It is during this phase that the project manager must perform a number of activities to ensure the orderly completion of all the work and the acceptance of output of the project. So you can read Coca-Cola Zero Phase Case on page 220 and then reflect on the relevance of this chapter. Are there any questions? I see a question coming. Okay, no questions. All right. Thank you so much, guys. All the best for the test tomorrow. I will see you. Oh, okay. Now I see a real question coming. I am not aware that Funda is going to be down, but if Funda is down, all we will have to do is probably transfer the test to the next possible day that Funda is going to be on. So I could leave the test open for the whole weekend, and you can do it during the weekend sometime if you are available. If you are not, if Funda is not available tomorrow, so you can do the test over the weekend, or you can tell me when you are available to do the test, then you will do the test. However, the test will be available tomorrow. How is that? Does that help you? All right, great. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy the test tomorrow. All right, bye.